Captain Jake Morrison stared at the strange readings on his screen. The USS Liberty had been floating in deep space for 3 weeks, collecting data from distant stars. It was supposed to be a quiet mission. Jake liked quiet missions. They gave him time to think and drink his coffee in peace. But the readings were not quiet at all. "Lisa, come look at this," Jake called to his communications officer. Lisa Carter floated over in the zero gravity, her red hair drifting around her face like a cloud. "What is it, Captain?" she asked, grabbing onto Jake's chair to steady herself. "I'm picking up a signal. It's very weak, but it's definitely artificial. Someone or something is trying to talk." Lisa's eyes went wide. In all her years working on deep spaceships, she had never found a real alien signal. There had been false alarms before. Space rocks that looked like messages. Old human satellites that got lost. But this felt different. "Can you clean it up?" Jake asked. Lisa nodded and got to work. Her fingers flew over the controls. The signal was buried under layers of space noise and static. It would take time to dig it out. But Lisa was the best communications officer in the fleet. If anyone could do it, she could. While Lisa worked, Jake called Dr. Alex Turner to the bridge. Alex was their language expert. He could speak 12 human languages and had studied how aliens might talk. Jake thought they might need him soon. Hours passed. Lisa worked without stopping. She filtered out the noise bit by bit. Slowly, patterns began to appear. The signal had structure. It repeated certain parts. It was definitely a language. "Got it," Lisa said finally. "The signal is coming from the Kepler 442 system. That's about 40 light years from here." 40 light years, Alex whistled. "That signal has been traveling for 40 years just to reach us." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Whatever sent? This message had been trying to reach someone for 4 decades. That was longer than Jake had been alive. "Can you play it?" Jake asked. Lisa nodded and pressed a button. Strange sounds filled the bridge. They were musical, like singing, but also electronic. The voice rose and fell in patterns that almost sounded like crying. "It's beautiful," Lisa whispered. "And sad," Alex added. He was already taking notes, trying to understand the sounds. "Very, very sad." Jake listened to the alien voice and felt something twist in his stomach. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the feeling. This was a cry for help. Far away in the Kepler 442 system, High Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his dying ship. Through the windows, he could see his world burning. The Devourers had come 3 days ago. Already his beautiful cities were turning to ash. Veltar was tall and thin, with blue skin that had turned pale with fear. His large eyes, meant for seeing in the dim light of his home star, were filled with tears. Around him, his crew worked desperately to hold back the enemy. "Sir, the defense. Stations are failing," reported Subcommander Kexani. She was younger than Veltar, but just as brave. "The Devourers are breaking through our outer ring." Veltar nodded sadly. He had known this day would come. The Devourers had already destroyed 3 of their colony worlds. Each time they had grown stronger. Each time, more of his people had died. "Any word from the other systems?" Veltar asked. "Have the Altarians or the Centauri Alliance responded to our calls?" Kexani shook her head. "Nothing, sir. No one is coming." Veltar was not surprised. The galaxy was a cold place. Every species looked out for themselves. Why would anyone risk their ships to save strangers? "What about the signal we sent to the Outer Rim?" Veltar asked. "The automatic distress call?" "Still broadcasting, sir. But..." Kexani hesitated. "But what?" "Sir, the only civilizations in that direction are primitive. Our scouts reported that the 3rd planet in the Sol system has barely achieved spaceflight. They call themselves humans. They would never receive our message, and even if they did, they could never reach us in time." Veltar sighed. The humans. His scientists had studied them from a distance decades ago. They were violent and disorganized. They fought wars over water and land. They had only just learned to leave their own planet. What could such creatures do against the Devourers? Nothing. But Veltar had sent the signal anyway. When you are drowning, you reach for any rope, even one that might not be there. Back on Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the Strategic Defense Command Center. It was a massive room filled with screens and computers. Officers moved between the workstations like dancers, coordinating Earth's defenses. Kate was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been in the military for 30 years. She had seen humanity's first contact with peaceful aliens. She had fought in the robot wars. She had commanded fleets in battles that most people had never heard of, but she had never faced a decision like this one. "The signal has been decoded, Admiral," reported Dr. Turner over the video link from the USS Liberty. "It's a distress call. The aliens call themselves Zephyrians. They're under attack by something called the Devourers." "What do we know about these Devourers?" Kate asked. "From what we can understand, they're like a plague. They consume everything in their path. Planets, ships, people. The Zephyrians have been fighting them for months, but they're losing." Kate studied the star charts on her screen. Kepler 442 was far away, but not impossible to reach. Still, it would take their fastest ships weeks to get there. "Admiral," said General Chris Parker, her chief advisor, "this could be a trap. We don't know these aliens. We don't know if their story is true." Kate nodded. Chris was right to be careful. Humanity had enemies out there. Some aliens saw humans as a threat to be eliminated. "On the other hand," said Director Amy Rodriguez, "this could be our chance to make real allies. If we help them, they might help us in return." Kate looked at the decoded message again. She thought about the Zephyrians, fighting alone against an enemy they couldn't defeat. She thought about their desperation, sending signals into the void, hoping someone would care enough to answer. She thought about what it meant to be human. "Prep the fleet," Kate said finally. "Full mobilization, every ship we can spare." "Admiral, that's our entire deep space navy," Chris protested. If this goes wrong, we'll deal with it," Kate interrupted. "But if we do nothing and an entire civilization dies when we could have helped, I'll never forgive myself, and neither will history." She turned to face her staff. "Send word to all fleet commanders. We're going to war." In the depths of space, the alien signal continued to broadcast. It sang its lonely song across the void, carrying the hopes and fears of an entire species, and for the first time in 40 years, someone was finally listening. The biggest ships humanity had ever built hung in space like sleeping giants. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance and watched her fleet assemble. She had never seen so many warships in one place. The USS Defiance was the crown jewel of Earth's Navy. It was 5 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Next to it floated the carrier ships USS Valiant and USS Thunder. Each one held hundreds of fighter craft and thousands of crew members. "Final count, Admiral," reported Captain Luke Harrison, the Defiance's commanding officer. Luke was a tall man with steady hands and calm eyes. Kate trusted him completely. "We have 47 ships ready for departure. This is the largest fleet ever assembled." Kate nodded. It was impressive, but would it be enough? They were going to fight an enemy they had never seen, in a place they had never been, for people they had never met. "Captain Santos, report from the Valiant," came a voice over the communication system. Captain Maria Santos commanded the USS Valiant. She was known for her quick thinking and fierce loyalty to her crew. "All fighter squadrons. Ready, Admiral. Pilots are eager to see action." Kate smiled slightly. Human pilots were the best in known space. They were fearless, creative, and absolutely deadly when they needed to be. If the Devourers wanted a fight, they would get one. "What about our new toys?" Kate asked Chief Engineer Sam Collins. Sam was responsible for the fleet's most advanced technology. His inventions had saved human lives in a dozen battles. "The quantum tunnel drives are working perfectly," Sam reported with pride. "We can travel 40 light years in just 6 days. The old ships would take months to make the same journey." Kate was amazed every time she thought about it. When her grandfather was young, it took years just to reach the edge of their own solar system. Now they could cross the galaxy in weeks. "Tell me about the weapons," Kate said to weapons specialist Nina Brooks. Nina was a small woman with a big reputation. She could make anything explode, and she was very good at her job. "The new plasma. Lance arrays are ready for combat testing," Nina said with a grin. "Each lance can punch through 20 feet of solid steel. The targeting computers can hit a target the size of a coin from 1,000 miles away. And the defensive systems? Nano armor plating on all ships," answered Sam. If we take damage, the hull repairs itself automatically. We also have energy shields that can stop most known weapons. Kate felt a surge of confidence. Humanity had come a long way from throwing rocks and shooting arrows. Their technology was the result of centuries of war, exploration, and human curiosity. They had learned from every enemy they faced. While the fleet prepared, Dr. Alex Turner worked to understand more about their enemy. He studied every piece of the Zephyrian message, looking for clues about the Devourers. "They're not like anything we've seen before," Alex told Kate during a private meeting. "From what I can understand, they're part machine, part living creature. They grow stronger by consuming other life forms." Like a virus? Worse than a virus. A virus just spreads. These things actually learn and adapt. Every ship they destroy makes them smarter. Every planet they consume makes them stronger. Kate felt a chill. Humanity had fought robots before. They had fought aliens before. But an enemy that grew stronger with each victory was something new and terrifying. How long have the Zephyrians been fighting them? At least 6 months. Maybe longer. From what I can tell, the Devourers destroyed 3 colony worlds before attacking the home planet. Kate did the math in her head. If the Devourers had been fighting for 6 months, they were probably much stronger now than when they started. The Zephyrians were not just losing, they were being eaten alive. On the dying world of Kepler 442b, High Commander Veltar watched another of his ships explode. The Devourer vessels moved like living things, flowing and changing shape as they fought. His weapons barely scratched them. "Sir, we've lost the cruiser Bright Wind," reported Subcommander Kexani. Her voice was steady, but Veltar could see the fear in her large eyes. "How many ships do we have left?" 17, sir. Down from over 200 when this started." Veltar closed his eyes for a moment. 200 ships. Crews that had served with honor for decades. All gone, consumed by these monsters from beyond the stars. "Sir, we're receiving a message from the surface," called Communications Officer Zixara. "The capital city is requesting immediate evacuation. The Devourers have broken through the atmosphere." Veltar looked down at his world through the bridge windows. He could see the fires spreading across the continents. His people were dying while he floated helplessly in space. "We can't evacuate them," he said quietly. "We don't have enough ships left." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew it was true. They barely had enough ships to save themselves, let alone the billions of Zephyrians on the planet below. "Sir," said Kexani, "maybe we should consider surrender. If we offer ourselves to the Devourers, maybe they'll spare some of our people." Veltar shook his head. "The Devourers don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They only consume." Research leader Mixala floated to Veltar's side. She was the fleet's chief scientist and one of the smartest Zephyrians alive. "Commander, I've been studying the Devourer attack patterns. I think I understand how they operate. Tell me, they're not just randomly destroying everything. They're learning from us. Every time we use a new weapon or tactic, they adapt to counter it. We're not just fighting them, we're teaching them how to beat us." Veltar felt his heart sink even further. It was worse than he thought. Every battle they fought made their enemy stronger. "Is there any hope?" he asked. Mixala was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up at him with her large, dark eyes. "The signal, sir. The distress call to the Outer Rim. If someone received it—" "The humans?" Veltar almost laughed. "Even if they got our message, what could they do? Our scouts said they barely have space flight. They're centuries behind us technologically." "Perhaps," Mixala said carefully. "But, sir, those reports are 40 years old. What if they've changed? What if they've grown stronger?" Veltar wanted to hope, but hope was a luxury he could not afford. His people were dying, his world was burning, and somewhere in the cold vacuum of space, the Devourers were preparing their final attack. Back in Earth's solar system, the human fleet was almost ready to depart. Engineers made final checks on every system. Pilots ran through combat simulations. Marines cleaned their weapons and checked their armor. Commander Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of his destroyer, the USS Raptor. Ryan was young for a ship commander, but he had proven himself in the Titan conflicts. His crew trusted him, and his ship was one of the fastest in the fleet. All systems green, reported his engineer. Quantum drive ready for long-range jump. Ryan nodded and opened a channel to the rest of the fleet. This is Raptor Actual. We are ready for departure. Similar reports came in from ships across the formation. The USS Thunder reported its fighter squadrons were loaded and ready. The heavy cruisers confirmed their weapons were charged. The supply ships had enough food and ammunition for months of fighting. Admiral Kate Sullivan listened to each report with growing confidence. This was what humanity did best. When faced with a challenge, they came together. When someone needed help, they answered the call. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson from the communications station. We're receiving new transmissions from the Kepler system. The situation is getting worse. Kate walked over to Pete's station. Pete was one of the best communication officers in the fleet. If he said the situation was bad, it was very bad indeed. What are you hearing? Zephyrian. Military channels are reporting massive casualties. Their capital city is under direct attack. From what I can translate, they're down to less than 20 ships. Kate felt her jaw tighten. 20 ships. When this started, intelligence reports suggested the Zephyrians had hundreds of vessels. The Devourers were not just winning. They were destroying everything in their path. How long until we reach them? 6 days at maximum quantum speed, answered the navigation officer. 6 days. In 6 days, there might be nothing left to save. But Kate had made her decision. Humanity would answer the call, even if they arrived too late. All ships, prepare for quantum tunnel activation, Kate announced over the fleet communication system. We are going to war. Across the fleet, crews strapped themselves into their seats. The quantum tunnel drive was safe, but the transition could be rough. Space twisted around the ships as they prepared to cross impossible distances in the blink of an eye. Quantum tunnel opening in 10 seconds, reported the navigation officer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engage. The stars disappeared. Space folded in on itself, and humanity's greatest fleet vanished into the tunnel, racing across the galaxy to answer a call for help from strangers they had never met. Behind them, Earth continued to spin peacefully in space, but its children were going to war, carrying with them the hopes of two species and the fury of a people who would not stand by while innocents died. The Devourers had never faced anything like humanity. They were about to learn what happened when humans decided to fight. Space exploded into view as the human fleet dropped out of the quantum tunnel. Admiral Kate Sullivan gripped her chair as the USS Defiance shuddered from the transition. Around them, 46 other ships materialized, like ghosts becoming solid. Report, Kate ordered as soon as the shaking stopped. All ships accounted for, called Captain Luke Harrison. No damage from the jump. We are at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Kate looked at the main screen and felt her blood turn cold. Even from this distance, she could see the battle raging, near the inner planets. Flashes of light marked where ships were dying. The space around the alien homeworld glowed with fire. How far to the planet? Kate asked. 12 hours at full speed, answered the navigation officer. But Admiral, we're picking up massive energy readings from the battle zone. Whatever is happening there, it's big. Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson turned from his communications station, his face pale. Admiral, I'm intercepting Zephyrian transmissions. They're down to 9 ships. 9 ships out of their entire fleet. Kate felt her stomach drop. 9 ships. They had traveled across the galaxy to save a civilization that was almost gone. Can you contact them? Working on it now, Pete said, his fingers flying over the controls. The signal is weak, but I think I can get through. While Pete worked, Captain Maria Santos called from the USS Valiant. Admiral, my scouts are reporting strange contacts near the planet. The ships don't match any known design. They're moving wrong. Moving wrong. They're flowing, Admiral, like liquid, and they're changing shape as they move. Kate had seen many strange things in her years of service, but ships that flowed like water was something new, and probably very dangerous. Got them, Pete announced suddenly. I have a connection to the Zephyrian command ship. The main screen flickered, then showed the interior of an alien bridge. Kate found herself looking at a tall, thin creature with blue skin and large, dark eyes. The alien looked exhausted and frightened. This is High Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Republic, the alien said in accented but clear English. "Who are you? How do you know our language?" "This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Human Earth Fleet," Kate replied. "We received your distress signal. We're here to help." Veltar's large eyes went even wider. "Human? But you're from the Sol system. Our records show you barely have space flight. This must be some kind of mistake." Kate smiled grimly. "Your records are 40 years old, Commander. We've learned a few things since then." "You said you're here to help," Veltar said, his voice full of disbelief. "Do you understand what you're facing? The Devourers have destroyed our entire civilization. They consume everything they touch. They grow stronger with each victory." "We understand," Kate said, "and we're still here to help." For a moment, Veltar just stared at her. Then he began to laugh. It was not a happy sound. It was the laugh of someone who had given up hope and found it again in the most impossible place. "You're serious," he said finally. "You actually came. After 40 years, someone actually came." "Show us what we're fighting," Kate ordered. Veltar transferred his tactical display to the human fleet. Kate studied the readings and felt her jaw tighten. The Devourer ships were unlike anything she had ever seen. They moved in patterns that hurt to look at. They seemed to be growing even as she watched. "They adapt to everything we throw at them," Veltar explained. "Energy weapons, missiles, even ramming attacks. Nothing works for long. They learn and they change." "How many are there?" "We count at least 50 vessels, but the number keeps changing. They split apart and merge together. We're not even sure if they're individual ships or parts of one giant organism." Kate nodded and opened a channel to her fleet. "All ships. This is the Admiral. We have visual on the enemy. They are designated as Devourers. Unknown technology, adaptive capabilities, assume maximum threat level. Across the fleet, crews prepared for battle. Weapons were charged, shields were raised, and fighters were moved to launch positions. But first, Kate wanted to know more about what they were facing. "Commander Blake," she called to the USS Raptor. "Take your ship in for a closer look. Stay hidden, but get us some detailed scans." "Understood, Admiral." "Raptor moving to reconnaissance position." The USS Raptor was the newest destroyer in the fleet. It was fast, quiet, and packed with the most advanced sensors humanity could build. If anyone could get close to the Devourers without being detected, it was Commander Ryan Blake and his crew. On the bridge of the Raptor, Ryan watched the alien battle unfold on his screens. The Zephyrian ships fought bravely, but they were clearly outmatched. Their weapons seemed to have little effect on the strange flowing vessels of the Devourers. "Stealth systems active," reported his engineer. "We're running silent." "Take us in closer," Ryan ordered. "I want detailed scans of those Devourer ships." The Raptor slipped through space like a shadow. Its advanced cloaking technology made it nearly invisible to most sensors. As they got closer to the battle, the true horror of the Devourers became clear. "Sir," called the science officer, his voice shaking. "These readings? They're impossible. The Devourer ships are part machine, part living tissue. They're actually growing as we watch." Ryan looked at his screens and felt sick. The Devourer vessels were not just ships. They were creatures. As he watched, one of them extended tentacle-like appendages and grabbed a damaged Zephyrian cruiser. The cruiser screamed on the radio as it was slowly consumed, its metal hull being digested and absorbed into the Devourer's body. "Sir, one of them is heading this way," warned the navigation officer. Ryan looked at his screen and saw a Devourer scout ship moving in their direction. It was smaller than the main vessels, but just as horrible. Its surface rippled and changed as it moved, like skin crawling with invisible insects. "Have they detected us?" "I don't think so. It seems to be on patrol." The scout ship passed within a mile of the Raptor. Ryan held his breath, knowing that discovery would mean death for his entire crew. The Devourer vessel moved past them without stopping, but Ryan noticed something that made his blood run cold. The ship was scanning everything as it moved. It was learning about the space around it, mapping every piece of debris, every energy signature. The Devourers were not just fighting the Zephyrians, they were studying them. "Get us out of here," Ryan whispered. "Nice and slow," the Raptor began, to back away from the battle zone. But as they moved, the Devourer scout suddenly stopped. It turned toward them, as if it had finally noticed something was wrong. "Sir, it's looking right at us." the sensor operator reported. Impossible! Our stealth systems are perfect! But the Devourer ship was definitely focused on them now. It began to move in their direction slowly at first, then faster. It's adapting to our stealth technology, the science officer said in amazement. Somehow it's learning to see us. Ryan made a quick decision. All stop. Battle stations. Sir? If we run, we'll lead it back to the fleet. If we stay and fight, maybe we can learn something useful. The Devourer scout ship approached the Raptor cautiously. Ryan could see its surface shifting and changing, like it was preparing for battle. Weapon ports opened along its hull, revealing organic-looking gun barrels that glowed with sickly green. Light. Fire, Ryan ordered. The Raptor's plasma lance arrays lit up space with brilliant white fire. The energy beams struck the Devourer ship dead center, and for a moment Ryan thought they had won. The alien vessel staggered and seemed to shrink back from the impact. But then something amazing and terrible happened. The damaged areas of the Devourer ship began to grow back. The creature was healing itself, using the energy from the human weapons to repair its wounds. Sir, it's absorbing our weapon fire, the science officer reported in shock. It's turning our own energy against us. The Devourer ship finished healing and turned its weapons on the Raptor. Green beams of energy struck the human destroyer, and Ryan felt his ship shake under the impact. Shields holding, called the engineer, but they're draining fast. Ryan gritted his teeth. This was not going well, but at least they were learning how the enemy fought. That information might save lives later. Full reverse. Get us back to the fleet. The Raptor turned and ran for home, the Devourer scout chasing behind it. More green energy beams struck the human ship, and Ryan could smell smoke as systems overloaded. Come on, he muttered to his ship. Just a little further. They burst out of the asteroid field where the battle was raging and into clear space. Behind them, the Devourer scout hesitated at the edge of the debris field, as if unwilling to leave its territory. We're clear, reported the navigation officer. Ryan opened a channel to Admiral Sullivan. Admiral, this is Blake. We have intelligence on the enemy. And Admiral, we are in serious trouble. Back on the USS Defiance, Kate listened to Ryan's report with growing concern. The Devourers were worse than anything they had imagined. They could adapt to human technology, they could heal from damage, and they were learning from every encounter. How? Did the Zephyrians fight them for so long? She asked Veltar. By dying, the alien commander replied simply. We throw ships at them until they adapt to our weapons. Then we throw more ships with different weapons. We've been feeding them our technology for months. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood before the holographic display in the USS Defiance's war room. The entire human fleet surrounded her ship, waiting for orders. She had spent 2 hours studying the Devourer attack patterns, and now she had a plan. Oriwa. Devourers expect us to fight like the Zephyrians, Kate explained to her captains over the communication system. They've learned to counter direct attacks, energy weapons, and conventional tactics, so we're going to do something they've never seen before. Captain Luke Harrison leaned forward in his chair. What did you have in mind, Admiral? We're going to confuse them. Multiple simultaneous attacks from different directions, using different technologies each time. Before they can adapt to one strategy, we'll switch to another. Captain Maria. Santos nodded from the USS Valiant. Hit-and-run tactics. My pilots are trained for that kind of fighting. Exactly, but that's just the beginning. Kate highlighted several points on the tactical display. Chief Engineer Collins, are the nanite weapons ready? Sam Collins appeared on screen from the engineering deck. Ready and loaded, Admiral. But I have to warn you, we've never tested them in actual combat. Today seems like a good day to start. Kate turned to weapons specialist Nina Brooks. Nina, I want you to coordinate fire patterns across the entire fleet. Make sure no two ships use the same weapon type at the same time. You want chaos? Nina said with a grin. I can do chaos. Kate opened a channel to High Commander Veltar on the Zephyrian command ship. Commander, we need your remaining ships to fall back. Let my fleet take the lead. Admiral, with respect, you have never fought these creatures before. They are more dangerous than you can imagine. I'm counting on it, Kate replied. The more confident they are, the more surprised they'll be when we do something unexpected. Veltar looked confused, but he nodded. Very well. All Zephyrian ships will retreat to safe distance. Kate turned to her fleet. All ships, prepare for combat approach. Remember, stay unpredictable. Commander Blake, take the Raptor in fast and hit them with plasma weapons. As soon as they start to adapt, pull back and let the Thunder launch fighters. Understood, Admiral. Captain Santos, I want your pilots using different attack patterns every pass. Don't give the Devourers time to figure out what you're doing. My pilots live for this kind of challenge, Maria replied. Kate took a deep breath. All ships, begin attack run. Let's show these things what humans can do. The human fleet moved forward like a pack of wolves, spread out and coordinated. The Devourers noticed them coming and began to shift their formation. The alien creatures had been focused on destroying the last Zephyrian ships, but now they turned their attention to this new threat. Commander Ryan Blake pushed the USS Raptor to maximum speed. His destroyer shot forward like a bullet, racing toward the largest group of Devourer ships. Behind him, the rest of the human fleet followed at a more careful pace. Firing solution locked, called his weapons officer. Fire all plasma arrays, Ryan ordered. White-hot beams of energy struck 3 Devourer ships simultaneously. The alien vessels staggered under the impact, their organic hulls burning and smoking. For a moment, it looked like the human weapons were working perfectly. Then the Devourers began to change. Their damaged sections started to glow, absorbing the plasma energy and using it to heal themselves. Within seconds, they were not only repaired, but stronger than before. Just like before, Ryan muttered. They're adapting to our weapons. But this time, he was ready for it. All ships, pull back now! The Raptor turned and raced away from the Devourers just as they began to return fire. Green energy beams shot past the human destroyer, missing by inches. Thunder, you're up, Kate called over the communication system. Captain Harrison's ship, the USS Thunder, launched its entire fighter wing. Hundreds of small, fast ships poured out of the carrier like angry bees, but instead of flying in formation, like military fighters usually did, they scattered in all directions. Major Kelly White led the first squadron in a crazy spiral attack that would have made her flight instructor fail her. The human fighters dove and rolled and twisted through space, firing missiles and laser beams from impossible angles. The Devourers tried to target the fighters, but they couldn't predict where the humans would go next. Every time the alien creatures aimed their weapons, the human pilots had already moved somewhere else. This is insane, called one of the Zephyrian observers. How can they fly like that without crashing into each other? Dr. Alex Turner, who was monitoring the communications, smiled. Human pilots train in chaos. We actually practice flying in ways that don't make sense. It's part of our combat doctrine. The fighter attack was working, but Kate knew it wouldn't last long. The Devourers were already starting to adapt, learning to predict the human flight patterns. Santos, pull your fighters back. Harrison, deploy the gravity mines. Captain Luke Harrison had never used gravity mines in real combat before. They were experimental weapons that created tiny black holes in space. The theory was sound, but no one knew if they would actually work against an enemy. Gravity mines deployed, Luke reported. Detonation in 30 seconds. The Devourers chased after the retreating human fighters, not realizing they were flying into a trap. When the gravity mines exploded, space itself twisted and bent around them. 3 Devourer ships were caught in the gravitational distortions and torn apart at the molecular level. Direct hits, Nina Brooks reported with satisfaction. 3 enemy vessels destroyed, but the remaining Devourers were already adapting. They began to spread out more, avoiding areas where space looked distorted. They were learning to see the gravity mines before they exploded. Time for Phase 3, Kate announced. Collins, deploy the nanites. Chief Engineer Sam Collins had been working on nanite weapons for years. They were microscopic robots that could disassemble enemy ships at the atomic level. The Devourers had never seen anything like them. Clouds of nanites spread out from the human ships like invisible fog. When they reached the Devourer vessels, they began to work immediately. The alien ships started to dissolve, their hulls breaking, down into component atoms. For a moment, Kate thought they had found the perfect weapon. The Devourers couldn't adapt to something they couldn't see or understand. But these creatures were more resourceful than anyone had imagined. The remaining Devourer ships began to emit electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the nanites' programming. They were learning to fight back against weapons they had never encountered before. The nanites are failing, Sam reported. They're jamming our control signals. Kate gritted her teeth. The Devourers were adapting faster than she had expected, but she had one more surprise for them. All ships, prepare for direct assault. But this time, we're going to do something really stupid. Admiral? Luke asked, confused. We're going to ram them. The entire human fleet gasped. Ramming attacks were desperate moves, usually done by ships that were already doomed. No military commander ordered ramming attacks unless there was no other choice. With respect, Admiral, Maria Santos said carefully, that sounds like suicide. Not ramming to destroy ourselves, Kate explained. Ramming to get close enough for boarding actions. The plan was completely insane. But that was exactly why it might work. The Devourers had adapted to energy weapons, missiles, fighters, gravity mines, and nanites, but they had never faced human Marines in hand-to-hand combat. Sergeant, Major Bill Thompson, are your Marines ready? Kate asked. Bill Thompson was the toughest man in the human fleet. He had fought in more battles than most soldiers could imagine, and his Marines would follow him into hell if he asked them to. My boys are ready for anything, Admiral. Even this. Crazy idea of yours. Good. All ships begin ramming approach. Get us close enough for boarding. The human fleet charged forward like ancient cavalry. The Devourers, confused by this suicidal behavior, hesitated for just a moment. That moment was all the humans needed. The USS Defiance struck a Devourer ship head-on, its reinforced hull cutting, deep into the alien vessel. Immediately, airlocks opened, and human Marines poured into the enemy ship. What they found inside was beyond description. The interior of the Devourer ship was alive, pulsing with organic tissue and mechanical components that grew together like a twisted garden. The walls moved and breathed like living skin. Stay together, Bill Thompson ordered his Marines. And shoot anything that moves. The Marines fought their way through corridors that shifted and changed around them. The Devourers had no experience with this kind of fighting. Their ship weapons couldn't be used inside their own vessels, and their adaptation abilities were useless against humans with guns and explosives. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as more human ships rammed into Devourer vessels. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that didn't follow any logical rules of warfare, Admiral, called Pete Johnson from the communications station. We're getting reports from all boarding teams. The Marines are finding what looks like central control organs in each ship. Tell them to destroy everything they see, Kate ordered. The battle became a free-for-all. Human Marines fought through living ships, destroying everything they could reach. Human fighters strafed Devourer vessels that were too busy dealing with boarders to defend themselves properly. Human warships used their most powerful weapons at point-blank range. The silence after battle was always strange. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the debris field that had once been the Devourer fleet. Pieces of alien ships drifted through space like scattered leaves. No longer the terrible threat they had been just hours before. Final damage report, Kate called to Captain Luke Harrison. Luke checked his displays. 7 ships with major damage, 15 with minor damage. No ships lost. Casualties are surprisingly light, considering what we just went through. Kate nodded, relief flooding through her. They had won, and most of her people were going home alive. It was more than she had dared to hope for when they started this impossible mission. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson from the communications station. High Commander Veltar is requesting permission to come aboard. He says he wants to speak with you in person. Kate looked at the main screen, where Veltar's face showed a mixture of gratitude and amazement. Permission granted. Tell him to bring his senior staff. It's time we had a proper meeting. While they waited for the Zephyrian shuttle to arrive, Kate walked through the ship to check on her crew. In the medical bay, she found Dr. Alex Turner helping to treat the wounded Marines who had fought inside the Devourer ships. How are they doing, Doctor? Kate asked. Alex looked up from bandaging a Marine's arm. Better than expected? The Devourers' internal defenses were more confusing than dangerous. Most of these injuries are from running into walls that kept moving. The wounded Marine, a young woman named Private Lisa Davis, grinned despite her injuries. Those ships were like fighting inside a stomach, Admiral. Everything was slimy and it kept trying to digest us. Kate smiled back. But you won. Yes, ma'am. We always win. That was the human spirit Kate had counted on. No matter how strange or terrifying the enemy, her people found a way to fight and win. An hour later, Kate stood in the main conference room of the USS Defiance. Across from her sat High Commander Veltar and 3 other Zephyrians. Up close, Kate could see that they were even more alien than she had realized. Their skin had a blue tint that shifted in the light, and their large eyes seemed to see everything at once. "Admiral Sullivan," Veltar began, his voice formal but warm. "On behalf of the Zephyrian Republic, I offer our deepest gratitude. You saved our entire civilization." "We did what anyone should do," Kate replied. "We helped people who needed help." Veltar's large eyes blinked slowly. "I am afraid that is not true. We sent distress signals to 17 different star systems. Yours was the only species that responded." Kate felt a surge of anger at the other aliens who had ignored the Zephyrian plea for help. But she pushed the feeling aside. This was not the time for anger. "Tell me about your people," Kate said. "What happens now that the Devourers are gone?" Subcommander Kexani leaned forward. "Our homeworld is badly damaged, but it can be repaired. Our colonies can be rebuilt. But, Admiral, we have lost so much. Our fleet is gone. Our defenses are destroyed. We are completely vulnerable." "What are you asking for?" "Protection," Veltar said simply. "An alliance. We offer everything we have in exchange for your help rebuilding our civilization." Kate considered this carefully. An alliance with an alien species would change everything for humanity, but it also represented an opportunity to learn and grow. "What can you offer us in return?" Kate asked. Research leader Mixala spoke for the first time. "Knowledge, Admiral. We have star maps that cover half the galaxy. We know which systems are inhabited, which ones are dangerous, and which ones contain resources. We can also share our scientific discoveries with you. And in return, we need your protection while we rebuild. And we need to learn from you. Your technology, your tactics, your way of thinking. The Devourers defeated us because we were predictable. You destroyed them because you were not." Kate looked around the table at her senior officers. Dr. Turner was practically vibrating with excitement at the chance to study alien science. Chief Engineer Sam Collins was already thinking about the technological possibilities. Captain Harrison looked thoughtful but supportive. "I'll need to discuss this with Earth Command," Kate said finally. "But I think we can work something out." Veltar's face lit up with relief. "Thank you, Admiral. You have given us hope for the future." Over the next few days, while the human fleet helped with rescue operations around the damaged planet, Kate learned more about Zephyrian civilization. They were peaceful people who had focused on art, science, and exploration. War was something they had never been good at, which explained why the Devourers had defeated them so easily. "Your people think differently than we do," Kate observed during one of their conversations. "You approach problems logically and systematically. We approach them chaotically and creatively." "Is that why you were able to defeat the Devourers?" Veltar asked. "Partly, but the real reason is that humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've learned to be unpredictable because predictable armies get defeated." Mixala, who had been studying human technology with Sam Collins, added her own observations. "Your ships are more advanced than ours, but that's not the most impressive thing about them. The most impressive thing is how adaptable they are. Every system can be reconfigured for different situations." "We designed them that way," Sam explained. "Human military doctrine emphasizes flexibility. We never know what we're going to face next, so we build equipment that can handle anything." As the rescue operations continued, Kate received a priority message from Earth. She read it in her private quarters, then called an emergency meeting of her senior staff. "Earth Command has approved the alliance," she announced, "but they want us to establish a permanent human presence in this system. We're going to build a joint military base here." Captain Harrison nodded approvingly. "Good idea. If the Devourers had friends, they might come looking for revenge." "There's more," Kate continued. "Earth is sending a diplomatic mission and a construction fleet. We're going to help the Zephyrians rebuild their civilization from scratch." Dr. Turner could barely contain his excitement. "Admiral, the scientific possibilities are incredible. We'll learn more about alien biology and technology in the next few years than we have in decades of theoretical study. And they'll learn about human engineering and tactics," added Nina Brooks. "I've been showing their weapons specialists our plasma lance designs. They're amazed that we can build such powerful weapons so small." The alliance was formalized Week later, in a ceremony on the damaged surface of the Zephyrian homeworld, Kate stood beside Veltar as they signed the agreement that would change the future for both species. "This is just the beginning," Veltar said as they shook hands in the human fashion. "Together, our peoples will explore the galaxy and protect those who need protection." Kate looked up at the sky, where human and Zephyrian ships worked side by side to repair orbital facilities. "I think you're right, and I think the galaxy is going to be a safer place because of it." 6 months later, Kate received another message that made her smile. A distant star system had detected signs of an aggressive alien force threatening peaceful colonists. The message was a plea for help, much like the one the Zephyrians had sent. But this time, the response was different. Within hours, a joint human-Zephyrian fleet was assembling for departure. The message they sent back was simple and direct. Help is on the way. Word of the alliance spread throughout known space. Other peaceful species began to reach out, asking to join what became known as the Galactic Protection Alliance. Some wanted military protection. Others offered scientific knowledge or resources. All of them had heard the story of how humanity had crossed the galaxy to save strangers. The galaxy was a big place, full of dangers and wonders. But it was also full of people who needed help, and now they knew that help would come. Kate Sullivan, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, stood on the bridge of the new command station orbiting Kepler 442b. Through the windows, she could see human and Zephyrian ships patrolling together. In the distance, construction crews were building the first joint research facility. "Admiral," called the communication officer, a young Zephyrian named Nick Sala, who had learned perfect English. "We're receiving another distress signal. This one is from the Andromeda Galaxy." Kate smiled. "Plot a course and assemble the fleet. It looks like we're going for another long trip." "Yes, ma'am. Should I inform the crew that we're going to war again?" Kate thought about that for a moment. "No," she said finally. "Tell them we're going to help some people who need help. That's what we do." As the massive fleet prepared for another impossible journey, Kate reflected on how much had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They had allies, friends, and a purpose that went beyond their own survival. The aliens had believed no one would come when they called for help. They had been wrong about that, and Kate was determined that they would never be wrong about it again. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, people were in trouble, and humanity's mightiest fleet was on its way to help them. That was what humans did. They answered the call no matter how far they had to travel or how dangerous the journey might be, because in the end, helping others wasn't just the right thing to do. It was what made them human.